Hello, how are you? I'm June Edwards, and this is our senior topics class, and I want to welcome you to our meeting today. And I'm trying to get everything set up just so we can enjoy it together. Okay, let's start with the October events. And thank you so much for joining me again today. It's a pleasure to meet with you. And one of these days, we'll be back in person, I know. Okay, I'm looking at October 12th, and of course, we all were taught about Christopher Columbus, that is Christopher Columbus Day. It is also called Dia de la Raza in Mexico, and it is also known as Farmer's Day in our country. And for some people, they prefer to call it Indigenous Peoples Day. On October 13th, did you know that they celebrate Thanksgiving Day in Canada? Well, I'm glad we have a little bit more time to prepare for all the food that we have to get ready for that day. Margaret Thatcher, who was a very popular prime minister in England, was born on October 13th, 1925. The first aerial photo taken in the United States was taken from a balloon in the city of Boston in the year 1860. October 14th, the famous children's illustrator Lois Lenski was born in 1893. Dwight David Eisenhower, our 34th president, was born in 1890. On the 15th of October, you might want to just stay in bed. This is known as National Grouch Day. So I don't know. We'll try to avoid any grouches on that day. October 16 is known as Dictionary Day, and it is also the birthday of Noah Webster in 1758, who compiled the first American English dictionary. The 16th is also known as World Food Day. On October 17th is Black Poetry Day, and in 1989 was a very bad earthquake in San Francisco. Remember the Candlelight Park where they held all their baseball games? Parts of that collapsed during the earthquake in 1989. Excuse me. October 18th is the Sweetest Day. It's also the birthday of Little Orphan Annie from the comic strip, and she was birthed in 1922. Puerto Rico became a United States colony in 1898. And that's as far as we'll go with our holidays and themes for this third week of October. But I do want to talk to you about something, and that is Christopher Columbus. Now, I know he's become more controversial in recent years. Some people think we should stop celebrating what he stands for. But let's go over his record first, okay? And yes, there are good parts to this man, and there are bad parts to this man, just like there is in every single one of us. Christopher Columbus, in Italian, his name is Cristoforo Colombo. In Spanish, it's Cristobal Colon. And in Portuguese, he's called Cristóvão Colombo. He was born between October 31st, 1450 and 1451. So the birth date is just a little hazy there. He died in May of 1506. He was a Genoese explorer, navigator, and colonizer, and he was born in a small country called the Republic of Genoa. Today, that is a part of Italy. Under the protection and authority of the Catholic monarchs of Spain, he completed 4 voyages across the Atlantic Ocean. Those voyages and his efforts to establish permanent settlements on the island of what was called Hispaniola started the Spanish colonization of the New World. And I have a picture that was painted of him 13 years after his death. And this painter knew somewhat what he looked like. So here's his picture. I want you to get a look at that. That was painted around 1521 or so. So in establishing trade routes and colonies, his proposal to reach the East Indies and the wealths of India and China, Japan, the rest of Asia, and bring some money back into the crown was a chance. They thought maybe because the Mongolian Empire had fallen and the Silk Road was no longer a safe trading route, that instead of going east, maybe they should try going west. But during his first voyage in 1492, instead of reaching Japan, which is what he thought he was going to reach, he actually landed in the New World. And he was off on his estimations of just, how big our world really is. Now, he never did admit that he had reached a continent previously unknown to Europeans, rather than the East Indies that he had set out for. He called the inhabitants of the lands he visited Indios, which is the Spanish word for Indians, because he thought they were from India. So let's look at his life in a little bit more detail. In his early life, he was born somewhere before October 31st or Halloween in the Republic of Genoa. We're not sure exactly where. His father was Domenico Colombo, and he was a middle-class wool weaver who worked both in Genoa and Savona, and also owned a cheese stand, and his son would work at the cheese stand. His mother was Susanna Fontanarosa, and he had three brothers. Bartolomeo worked in a cartographer shop where they made maps, and he also had a sister, but he became very interested in cartography, or the making of maps. He claims to have gone to sea when he was only 10 years old. In 1470, the Columbus family moved to Savona, where Domenico took over a tavern. And in the same year, Columbus was on a Genoese ship hired in the service of Rene I of Anjou to support his attempt to conquer the Kingdom of Naples. In 1473, he began an apprenticeship as a business agent for some important families of Genoa, and he also took part in 1476 in an armed convoy sent to carry a valuable cargo to Northern Europe. He spent some time in Bristol, England, and Galway, Ireland. In 1477, he was possibly in Iceland. And he found his brother in 1477, and they began trading for their family. So Columbus based himself in Lisbon from 1477 to 1485. He was married for a while, and he had a son named Diego. Now, he also traded along the coast of West Africa, and this is before the Portuguese had found the route all the way down south around the bottom of the peninsula and up the other side and over to India, which would throw a real monkey wrench in the plans of Columbus. Now, people were looking for a route to Asia. They knew it'd become more dangerous because the Mongol Empire had fallen. And so the Silk Road to India was very dangerous. And people wanted their silks and spices and opiates and everything else that they could get from there. So there was a real contest to see who could find a route first. Now, Washington Irving, who is one of our famous writers, wrote a biography of Columbus in 1828. He's the one that popularized the idea that Columbus could not get support for his plan to sail westward and go back around to Asia that way because Irving said many Catholic theologians insisted the earth was flat. But after a lot more study, we realized that that's not true. Most educated Westerners knew that the earth was a sphere, at least since the time of the Greek Aristotle, who lived in the 4th century BC. And his works were widely studied and revered in the Middle Ages. And many people had written about this, and during Columbus' time, they were using celestial navigation, which is studying the positions of the sun and the stars in the sky, and understanding that the earth is a sphere, and it had been used by astronomers for centuries. Where Columbus did differ from other people of his day was he thought it was a much shorter distance from Europe to Asia going west. He had a low estimate of the size of the earth. He thought the Eurasian landmass was much bigger than it was. He thought the ocean was much smaller. And he thought that Japan and other inhabited islands lay far to the east of China and he would have no trouble reaching them. Oh, he was wrong on all three of those points. In fact, we know that he estimated the distance to be about 3,000 miles, while the correct figure is closer to 12,200. No ship in the 15th century could carry enough food and fresh water for such a long voyage, and the dangers involved in navigating through uncharted ocean would have been formidable, and they did still believe in sea monsters at that time. So most European navigators reasonably concluded a westward voyage from Europe to Asia was unfeasible. But the Catholic monarchs of Spain, after Columbus had tried many other countries, were interested because they had completed an expensive war on the Iberian Peninsula, consolidating and growing their country of Spain, and they were desperate for a competitive edge over other European countries. They wanted that trade to India and the Indies. So they agreed. Well, it took quite a while. First, let's go backtrack a little bit. 1485, Columbus presented his plans to John II, King of Portugal. He said no. He rejected it because his advisors said he's asking too much money. He wants the title Admiral of the High Seas. He wants a really large percentage of all the wealth, and we're not going to do that. One of the reasons that the Portuguese rejected him was that not long after his first attempt at persuading the king, Bartholomew Dias returned to Portugal with news that he had successfully rounded the southern tip of Africa near the Cape of Good Hope. So now there was an eastern sea route to Asia apparently at hand. King John was no longer interested in Columbus's far-fetched project. Columbus tried Genoa and Venice. He sent his brother to the court of Henry VII of England. No luck there either, but he did have luck with Ferdinand II of Aragon and Isabella I of Castile. First, he approached the queen, and then it was her confessor. Now, she was Catholic, and she had her own private confessor. And she turned Columbus down on the advice of her confessor. So he got on a mule, and he was leaving town in great despair when Ferdinand intervened. Isabella sent a royal guard to fetch him back. You just see that picture? A man in deep despair on this mule, solitary figure on the dusty road. And here comes this messenger running and running and Columbo, Columbo, and calling him back and said, the king, he wants to see you. Ferdinand later claimed credit for being the main reason why those islands were discovered. About half of the financing came from private Italian investors that Columbus had already lined up. Now, the monarchs were financially broke after their Granada campaign, so they left it up to the royal treasurer to shift the funds around and get the money that they needed on behalf of the enterprise. Columbus was made admiral of the seas and given a portion of the profits. The terms were unusually generous for someone of that day, but as his son Diego later complained, the monarchs really did not expect him to ever return. So anyway, he made 4 different voyages, and they were all under the sponsorship of the Crown of Castile, and that marked the beginning of European exploration and colonization of the American continents. So it does have enormous significance to the opening up of the Western world to European influence. Unfortunately, there are some downsides. So we know that on the first voyage, he came to some islands in the Bahamas. We're not really sure which one. There's several that claim the honor, but we do know that he did get on shore, and of course, they were carrying some germs that which infected a lot of the native population and pretty much wiped them out. We think it could have been San Salvador Island. It could have been Samana Cay or the Planet Cays. We don't really know. But most of the indigenous people who were peaceful and friendly, Columbus noticed that they were wearing ornaments in their ears made out of real gold. So he took some of the Arawak Indians prisoner and insisted they guide him to the source of the gold. He said in his diary, "Many of the men I have seen have scars on their bodies. When I make sign language to them to find out how this happened, they indicate that people from other nearby islands come to San Salvador to capture them. They defend themselves the best they can. I believe the people from the mainland come to take them as slaves. They should make good and skilled servants, for they repeat very quickly whatever we say to them. I think we can easily convert them to the Christian religion." And he noticed that they really did not have very modern weapons. He made some other voyages too, but I want to tell you 10 interesting facts about Christopher Columbus, and you're going to have to decide for yourself whether we should still honor this man. He was very brave on Christopher Columbus Day. That was not his real name. I told you that he was Cristobal Colon in Spanish and Christopher Columbus with K's in Swedish. Even his Genoese name is not really known. He almost got to never make his journey. He hung around the Spanish court, and it took him years to finally convince Ferdinand and Isabella to finance him. He was a cheapskate. Oh, how about that? On his famous 1492 voyage, he had promised a reward of gold to whoever could spot land first. A sailor named Rodrigo de Triana was the first to see land on October 12, 1492, a small island in the present-day Bahamas, Columbus named San Salvador. But poor Rodrigo, he never got the reward. Columbus kept it for himself, telling everyone he had seen a hazy sort of light the night before. He had not spoken up because the light was indistinct. Rodrigo may have been cheated, but there is a nice statue of him sighting land in a park in Seville, Spain. Half of Columbus's voyages ended in disaster. On his famous 1492 voyage, his flagship, the Santa Maria, ran aground and sank. He had to leave 39 men behind at a new settlement called La Navidad. He was supposed to return to Spain loaded with spices and other valuable goods. Instead, he returned empty-handed and without the best of the 3 ships entrusted to him. On his 4th and last voyage, His ship rotted out from under him, and he spent a year with his men marooned on Jamaica. Well, I think that the royals were kind of cheapskates too. They say he was a great captain, but a terrible governor. Grateful for the new lands that Columbus found for them, the King and Queen of Spain made Columbus governor in the newly established settlement of Santo Domingo. But he and his brothers ruled the settlement like kings, like dictators. They antagonized the other settlers. It got so bad, the Spanish crown had to send a new governor, and Columbus was arrested and sent back to Spain in chains, where he died a few years later. He was a very religious man. He believed God had singled him out for his voyages of discovery. Most of the names he gave the new lands were religious ones. Later in life, he took to wearing a plain Franciscan habit everywhere he went, and he looked much more like a monk than the wealthy admiral that he had once been. He was also a dedicated slave trader, and that's where a lot of the controversy comes. He was disappointed to find the lands he discovered were not full of gold, silver, pearls, and other treasures. But then he decided the natives themselves could be a valuable resource. He brought several of them back to Spain after his first voyage, and even more after his second. He was devastated when Queen Isabella decided that these people were her subjects and not her slaves. Number 8, he never believed he had found a new world. He always believed it was a part of Asia. Number 9, Columbus made first contact with one of the major New World civilizations. While he was exploring Central America on one of his later voyages, he came upon a long dugout trading vessel. These occupants did have weapons and tools made of copper and flint, and a beer-like fermented beverage. It was from one of the Mayan cultures of northern Central America. Interestingly, he decided not to investigate, and he went south instead of north and did not really know more about the Mayan civilization. And the 10th thing I want to tell you is no one really knows where his remains are. He died in Spain in 1506. His remains were kept there for a while, and then they were sent to Santo Domingo in 1537. They remained there until 1795. Then they ended up in Havana, Cuba. In 1898, they were supposedly sent back to Spain. But in 1877, a box of bones bearing his name was found in Santo Domingo. Since then, 2 cities, Seville, Spain, and Santo Domingo, both claim to have his remains. In each city, the bones in question are housed in very expensive mausoleums. And there you have it, the story of the man, Christopher Columbus. Should we continue to celebrate his discoveries? They were pretty important. And some people say because of the way he treated the Indians and others. The answer is no. This is a model I have of the ship, one of the ships, the Santa Maria, which later ran aground. And you wonder about those brave men that were on this very small ship and traveling, sometimes in rough weather, not really knowing where they were going. And you know, Columbus kept 2 sets of books, one that he showed the sailors and the other with more accurate readings that he did not want to show them. He was afraid they would mutiny and insist he turn back because they were so far, far, far away from home. I want to go on to something else called Indian summer. You know, that's kind of what we're in, although in Southern California, it's much milder than it is in some other areas. Why do we call it Indian summer? Well, first of all, let's look at when it is. It can be in the late spring, but more popularly, it's in late September through mid-November. It usually occurs after a killing frost on the east coast, and then the weather turns unseasonably warm again after we've had cool weather. And we do have a mild version of that. And this week, we've had some cooler weather in the mid 70s to give us a taste of winter. And now we're going to go back up into the high 90s and even the triple digits. And that is our Indian summer. And the reference first came out around 1778, 1780. They think it has to do with the fact that, the Indians during that time are doing a lot of extra hunting. And so the settlers would see more of them as the Indians were preparing for the winter they knew was coming. Here is a beautiful, beautiful picture of Indian summer. The condition has a warm wind and cool nights. The Native Americans would use this to gather a final round of supplies before winter came in. Another reason that the European settlers called it Indian summer, they would welcome the arrival of cold, wintry weather in late October when they could finally leave their stockades unarmed. But then came a time when it would suddenly turn warm again, and the North American tribes would decide to have one more battle against the settlers. And that's why the settlers called it Indian summer. I also want to talk about fall in our area. When I first moved here from up north, I didn't think we had all these different seasons. I thought it was just a dry season and a rainy season. California does have some fall, and this is one of the best times to be out in our Golden State. Some of the leaves, especially the aspens on the eastern sides of the Sierra Nevadas, are turning everything to a golden yellow. Isn't that gorgeous? And people will go and try and find the leaves, and every year the paper prints where the best fall displays are going to be. And this, excuse me, this is in Fullerton. Botanists have developed a form of the Japanese maple that can tolerate our heavy, heavy sunshine. And this is what it looks like. This was taken not too far away in Fullerton. You really don't have to go that far to find the beautiful, beautiful fall. And I do want to read you one funny story in closing. This is called October. It's by my friend Mary Raymond. October deceived me. I hated her. After a cold spell, she would bring out some warm, sunny days to make a child think that summer was coming back. Liar! There wasn't going to be any more boat rides or swimming lessons or hours on the beach beside the lake. Not if you live south of Buffalo. Oh, yes, she would dress the trees in gaudy colors. Then, like a mistress who steals treasure from old men, strip them bare. Harlot! She put a chill over everything. She chased the lovely birds away and left the air deprived of song. She even killed off so many of the pretty flowers. Murderer! What she did at the end of her days can hardly be repeated. She brought out all the evil spirits and flaunted death in our faces and Halloween. She delighted in scaring little children and raising havoc in the neighborhood. Devil! Worst of all, she brought on the dark nights. No longer could a child play outside after dinner. There was nothing fun to do long time ago but listen to the radio or TV. Killjoy! These are some of the reasons I used to hate October, but not anymore. Since I moved to California, the October I once knew has changed. The coolness she brings is refreshing after a long, hot summer. Welcome. People can go sailing and swimming almost every day. The leaves mostly stay on the trees, and there are always flowers and birds around. Nurturer. October ends her days in the sweetest way. Furthermore, November is the one to blame for bringing on the early night, not October. Innocent. I like her. Of sweet October, let me boast. No frosty fate to fear. In California near the coast, it's summertime all year. That's right, all year. All right, you guys. I think I'm going to end it there. I know I've been talking to you about California history, and I did tell you about the gold rush. I told you how we became a state. The oldest drinking establishment in the state is the Iron Door Saloon in Groveland, founded in 1852 for the miners. The fastest Pony Express delivery on record, 6 days from Missouri to Sacramento, delivered the news of Abraham Lincoln's assassination in the 1860s. Knight's Ferry Covered Bridge is the longest covered bridge west of the Mississippi and was built in California in 1863. Empire Mine near Glass Valley is a gold mine operated for over 100 years, still running, and has over 367 miles of tunnels extending 2 miles deep. It is said to still contain millions in dollars of gold, and it's also now a historical park. Near Murphy's, $5 million in gold was removed from a 4-acre placer area during a single winter during the height of the gold rush. And in 1854, the largest gold nugget ever found was in California at Carson Hill above the Stanislaus River. It weighed 195 pounds and was valued at $43,500 in the currency of the day. Look at this peaceable river. Who would think that in that water, millions of dollars in a single giant nugget of gold? And that's it for tonight, folks. I mean, for this morning, sorry. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Please stay safe, and I hope to see you soon. Bye, everybody.